Hey, Tom Casey here today talking to you about existing line sets. When we go ahead and upgrade your air conditioning system, we have pipes that connect the outdoor unit to the indoor unit, and it's called a line set. That's the grouping of the two lines. There's a vapor line, sometimes called a suction line, which is the larger one that usually has insulation on the outside of it. And there's a smaller one called the liquid line. And those carry refrigerant back and forth from the outdoor unit to the indoor unit for cooling or heating, depending if it's a heat pump or not. Now, when we put in the new systems and we use the old lines, one of the things that happens is the old line set compatible? And by compatible, we've got to look at a few things. Number one, what was the existing refrigerant that was inside of the old line set? Because old R22, which the EPA has banned at this point, uses a different oil that's not compatible with R410A. So if you don't flush the line set and you leave the old oil in circulation, there's going to be problems. And it's going to crop up after the fact, usually after the warranty's out and you got a ton of things to deal with, which ultimately gets super expensive when you could have taken the steps right up front to flush the lines. The other thing, if it was R22, is that back in the day we were able to soft solder the lines and the joints and the connections, which was a process that used lower heat so the joint wasn't as strong. Today we have to silver braze when we use 410A, which is a much hotter joint and a much stronger joint in terms of being leak-free. So if we reuse an old line set that has soft solder joints, the chances are the higher pressures of the new refrigerant could actually create a leak when one didn't exist before. And ultimately, at the end of the day, on top of those things, we have to make sure it's the right size. So modern technology, variable speed compressors, inverters, staging, they have different size requirements than older units. And if we don't put the right size line set in, we can have a problem with lubrication where the oil that circulates inside of your system may not get back to your compressor. Think of it like the engine of your air conditioning system. And so if you ran your car engine without oil, well, we know that wouldn't be a good thing. The same thing with your air conditioning system and the oil in that. So we got to make sure the lines are the right size. So just because they're there and just because they work doesn't mean it's the best decision. Now here's the other thing about line sets that you got to consider and you got to think about. If you're putting in a new system, you're making the investment, does it make sense to connect to old things? Things that are original, things that might have been a source of a problem. This is especially important when you make a decision to upgrade because of refrigerant leaks. Yeah, 80% of the time the refrigerant leaks are inside of the actual pieces of equipment, the air handling in it, in the evaporator coil, or the condensing unit and the condensing coil and things like that. But 20% of the times it's in the line set. So if you make the decision to upgrade thinking, I'm going to have a leak-free system and eliminate this every year I have to have my system charged up to cost and problem, and you don't upgrade the line set, well, you might not have done that. And even if we leak test your line set at the time of installation, which we always do, that's best practice to use nitrogen to test your lines, it could leak at any time down the road. So it could have been leak-free on the day that we installed your new system and develop a leak over time, and all of a sudden you're back to that nightmare of adding refrigerant, adding refrigerant, adding refrigerant. Of course, the investment to change the line set along with the rest of the job is substantially less than changing it by itself. You see, all the refrigerant's already out of the system, it's all apart already, we're going to leak test it anyways, we're going to dehydrate it anyways, we're going to recharge it anyways. So if we do it at the same time as everything else, you are literally just paying for the line set, not all the work to test it, dehydrate it, and charge it. So if you wait till later and there's a problem, you're going to spend a lot more, potentially twice as much as you would at the time of the installation. So it's always your house, always your money, and always your decision. We just want to have to make an informed one. Boom.